Can we put some of those pictures back up? I mean, Michael Steele, we can't lose track of the Today story, right? The Today thread is that today, because Kevin McCarthy kept a promise to Tucker Carlson, who loathes him, today, Tucker Carlson's producers are pouring through the footage of this day, which might be one of the most photographed and longest crime scenes ever to be broadcast on television anywhere. I don't know that you can find an example that is either longer or more photographed. But today, the members of Congress who helped plan the coup, the 19 who were in the Roosevelt Room, I think all of them, according to testimony, again, under oath, sought pardons. Today, they're power brokers. They were even, by McCarthy's own telling, nuts and fringy. He said on phone calls recorded by the New York Times that they had to be dealt with. They might represent a threat to other members of the body. They now sort of hold the leash that permits Kevin McCarthy to conduct his business with the title of Speaker, but not really the power of a Speaker. So today, the people in that chamber who helped plan this crime are the power brokers in the House of Representatives.
And they are the power brokers and have the power because he gave it to them. Because the seat was more important than the principle. And the idea that what we're witnessing here was somehow he's going to get this video, give it to Tucker Carlson, and what's he going to tell us? What is he going to tell us about what we're witnessing here? Because that's the video. This is the insurrection. So the idea that they want to take snippets and pieces and create a new narrative to tell a bigger, bolder lie about the thing that we all saw on and experienced ourselves, it goes to the heart of undermining this democracy. And to have the Speaker of the House, just because he made a promise to a guy who holds up Viktor Orban and Vladimir Putin as his standard bearer, Tucker Carlson, that's the guy he made a promise to. And what does he think is going to come from that promise? And how does he think the country is going to respond when this information is distorted and lies are told about the very videos and the very experiences of the men and women who tried to defend that Capitol? The members of Congress who we see here ducking for cover. Some of those self-samed power brokers were hiding under desks from the very people that they now cheer, that they call martyrs. So, you know, this is the space that we've invited into our body politic. And it goes back to what I said going into the election. You give these guys the power. What do you think they're going to do with it? I don't know why. Why are we so shocked and appalled at Kevin's behavior? Because this is what you get when you're dealing with people like that. So, you know, we got another election coming up. Maybe y'all can fix it in 24. But between now and then, what do you think is going to happen? What is life going to be like for Representative Barbara Lee in that House with people who have power that they should not have?
These are all the questions that I grapple with as well. Mary, I know DOJ is completely compartmentalized, and this filing today is from the Civil Division, but is there anything to deduce about DOJ's views about Trump's conduct? I mean, you've got a federal judge who says that the speech on the ellipse was not part of his official duties. You've got another federal judge who has said a long time ago that it is more likely than not that he and Eastman committed felonies. Is that message received inside DOJ, or is this a narrow filing?
Well, like I said, they're trying to, give the court a way out by importing First Amendment context into this particular case. This is a case which has been already argued in the D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals. The D.C. Circuit then invited the views of the Department of Justice on this question. And this is still at a very early stage in the case. It's not like the appeal came after the end of the case. The appeal came at the very beginning when the lower court denied immunity. So they're trying to file something that addresses just this case and doesn't create a whole lot of other precedent for other cases. But having said that, I think I can expect that the views of my former colleagues and others at the Department of Justice probably mirror those that appeared not only in this filing, but also in the amicus brief that was filed in this very case by a number of former Department of Justice and White House officials. And I will say a very bipartisan group. I mean, many of them serving in very high levels, high capacities in Republican administrations, who all felt very strongly that the conduct of President Trump, not just those statements that were inciting violence on January 6th and the days before January 6th, but his entire, conspiracy to undermine the will of the people and to pressure Vice President Pence, pressure Secretary of State Raffensperger, pressure for the state legislators to take back their votes and try to send other electoral sites. All of that, we argued, was outside the president's Article 2 powers, therefore outside of his official duties, and he should not receive absolute immunity for that. And I think when you get a bipartisan group of people who spent substantial numbers of years of their careers in the Department of Justice, that reflects a rule that is about adherence to the rule of law, and that no person is totally above the law.
It's a really, really important development. Thank you for helping us understand it. Mary and Michael, stick around. Congresswoman Barbara Lee, thank you very much for starting us off today and spending some time with us. When we come back,